Welcome to MMA Fancast. My name is Luke Pace, and welcome back for everybody who is already a subscriber to the show. If you're not already a subscriber, welcome, and please subscribe so you can see more great interviews like this one coming at you right now. First time guest on the show. Always exciting to have first time guest on the show. Tyler Covelli. Tyler, welcome to the show.
Hey everyone, how you doing?
It's always great having a first-time guest on the show. I feel like you're somebody that maybe I should have had on before because you've been a local fighter out of Pittsburgh, training at the legendary Pittsburgh MMA Academy with the Worthy brothers, who are both going to be on the 247 Fighting Championship double header event. One is fighting, Shaka is fighting on the 21 and a half card. And then Khama Worthy is fighting on the 22 card. But welcome to the show. Before we get into your fight that's coming up for the 247 card on June 29th, let's back up because you're the first time guest on the show. Besides noticing how beautiful the butterfly on your neck is, let's talk about, it's very nice. Yes, indeed. Let's talk about what athletic background do you have? What did you do middle school, high school, growing up, and kind of pre-MMA? What was your sports background?
Well, when I was younger, it was my big thing was soccer and hockey, all like growing up. Until I moved to Florida when I was younger and ended up playing soccer, varsity soccer in Florida. So that was really cool. But yeah, it was just pick up hockey up until I spiked interest in MMA. Just I mean, always been a huge UFC fan. Yeah, actually, how I ended up at the academy because I'm an ex UFC fighter, so it's
Yes, yes. So what do you remember? That's Kama to me will be, I've known him and he was on the first ever 247 card back April 6th of 20. Gonna say, yep, 2019. We just celebrated the 5-year anniversary of 247 Fighting Championship. So I remember when at that point he was still a very well-known fighter, but then he won a couple titles for 247. And then after one of his defenses against Adam Ward, he got pulled on like 8, 9 days notice, whatever it was, to 247, then got the knockout against Devontae Smith, which at the time was that year's
that
upset of the
one.
year. Yep,
That's one is what landed me at the academy. That I
there it
was
is.
I got surgery and I was sitting on my couch. I was watching the UFC fights and he announced the gym after his fight after he knocked him out. He called it out as like Woodville Avenue. I'm like, oh crap! I didn't know there's a UFC fighter in Pittsburgh. Anything? I'm like, let me check it out. And that just I became addicted immediately as soon
Oh,
as I went there. It's like every day I'm there and it's just literally it's like medication for me. Like it's makes my life so great. Like it's just so much fun.
that's awesome. And I know Kama and his wife Nicole are just wonderful people. His brother Shaka and many fighters at all the local Pittsburgh gyms are great, but many fighters have that mindset that it is like your family. It becomes a second family. For you, and this hopefully is an encouragement to everybody watching this. Obviously, you're an athletic guy. I actually think soccer, because the kickboxing aspect of or the Muay Thai aspect of MMA is very great for people that know where to put their feet, like soccer, basketball. There's always something you can pull from another sport. But this is an encouragement for anybody out there who's watching the UFC or any type of MMA, and they think, maybe I should try that. And they're on their couch and they've never tried it before. So you're a great example of somebody who's willing to step out of their comfort zone. Give me a story from one of your first couple times of attending the academy. Anything really stand out to you? What was it like meeting Kama? Having watched him at a UFC fight and then be able to meet him in person. Kind of what was it like going from seeing him on TV to then training with him? Obviously, he's a great guy, but he's also just a dude, a legend.
Yeah.
Every UFC fighter, I've had the opportunity to meet a couple of them. It does feel weird when you've seen them fight, but now they're just, they're just doing their normal stuff. So what was that transition like for you?
So actually, the first time at the gym, he was at I think one of his UFC fights in Vegas. So he wasn't there the first week, but when he got back, it was just like immediately he was just introduced to, oh, what's up? I'm Kama. How you doing? Just like I've been there before, and I've only been there a week, and he's never met me before. He's just acting like I'm like one of his students already. It's just so welcoming. Everyone there, it feels like a second home, and it's just as you keep going there, and it's so much fun and it's so nice. Like it's everyone there is just so friendly. It's just so welcoming atmosphere.
It is. It's a great thing. Given that you're going to be fighting at flyweight, which is 125, I'm guessing you roll a lot and train a lot with Shaka because he typically fights at 35 or I think sometimes 45. So is Shaka your main sparring partner? What sparring partners do you have? Are you a taller guy at your weight class? I mean, 125 tends to be pretty, pretty compact guys.
Yeah, I'm pretty tall and lanky. Like I'm 5'8".
Oh,
Yeah, so yeah, Shock I spar with him quite a bit. Craig Perry,
oh,
yeah, Cowboy Eddie, obviously, all the 247 guys, but
right.
yeah, we Khama, obviously, it's sucks sparring with him, but like
Yeah.
it's like you learn something every single time you do. He's like, don't do that, or and then you pick up, and then you go into sparring with another amateur. You could actually like pick up like what he says, and it's just yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a pretty
That
cool
is
experience.
pretty cool. And that also shows for people out there watching this, it shows how accessible Kama makes himself, right? Because there's nothing against a pro UFC fighter who wants to kind of be, by himself doing his own gym camp. Sometimes that's what those guys do. But Kama sparring with you, now you've had some fights, but sparring with an amateur when he's obviously a very accomplished pro fighter, I think that's great for you. And I think that's one of the things that makes the MMA Academy so special is he is so accessible to somebody like you who's learning the ropes. And I remember, this Glover Teixeira about a couple months before, unrelated, of course, to Pittsburgh, but a couple months before his title fight when he actually won. So at the time he was gonna have the title fight. He runs a gym up in Connecticut, and he had a fighter who was making his amateur debut, and Glover drove him all the way down to Pittsburgh for one of the 247 cards. And I remember, I remember thinking, like, obviously he's a legend, and at the time he hadn't quite won the title, but he ended up winning, which was awesome. But I thought, man, here's a UFC caliber guy, now a champ, making the drive with an 0-0 debut amateur. So it really shows. Hats off to Glover. He's known as one of the best guys in MMA as far as friendliness and things like that, really loving the sport. But Kama's also one of those guys that, he's very willing to work with everybody. Um, for you, you've made a couple MMA fights. What have you learned from them? And then let's start transitioning from what you've learned into your upcoming fight on June 29th.
So what I've learned basically is that I was pretty in both those fights. I was just pretty impulsive and just pushing the pace the entire time, making stupid mental mistakes. Like both of them were just back and forth fights. Like say my last fight, I tried in the second round, I dominated the first round. The second round, I'm like, let me try some stupid flying triangle, and it put me on my back against a wrestler. The rest of the time, and I'm just like, after the fight, I'm like, dang, shouldn't have done that. But it's just like this impulsive in the moment type of things, and it's just yeah, it was I had a blast in both of them, but yeah, I didn't get hit a lot, but it's just the stupid little tiny mistakes, and that's what I've been working on since my last fight in February is not making the little tiny mistakes and the mental aspect, not just going guns a blazing. Like we're settling down a little bit. Like those are
There's
my fights. My first one was in December. The next one I got right back in there like a month and a half later. So
okay. Well, then it is a mental game. And I think the fact that you lost two fights obviously stinks, but you lost them by decision. You got a lot of time, you got a lot of mat
yeah,
experience. That's an important part, even though you got put on your back and you work and stuff like that. It's learning time. You can do a ton in the gym, but what you have in the cage, you're gonna learn a lot more from under that pressure.
well, the first fight actually, like it was more so like a dominant a grappling aspect for me. Like it was that was my thing going into the fight was I controlled most of the time on the ground, but it was like the specific like I don't know. I personally think that I won that fight, but it was very close, and it was the leg kicks that got me for those. So it was yeah. But both those fights, I barely got hit. So it's like it's just it's a learning experience. I gotta adjust the little tiny things on each one, and we're moving forward for each one.
And I give you credit, the mindset, the attitude, people you train with, including Kama. He has an incredible record. I believe his professional record is something like close to 20 wins and another, chunk of losses. He took a lot of tough fights. Obviously, in the UFC, he took tough fights that he won impressively, and he took tough fights that he also lost. That's the way the fight game goes. But you mentioned Craig Perry, and obviously you know this, and people that watch MMA Fan should go back and watch all the Craig Perry interviews on this channel. He's been very gracious with his time, but he got off to a bad start in MMA. I'm sure you're very aware of this, and now he's gone on quite the run. And one of the things that Craig Perry and you, obviously training at the same gym, is his perseverance now kind of motivates you. And then somebody, once you get on a winning streak, somebody's going to look and say, hey, I know Tyler. And he was willing to kind of have that attitude. Like you just said, it's a couple small things that can end up making a big difference. And I think, part of the MMA Academy gym is just the mindset the Worthy brothers have, and all the coaches have. The BJJ coach, Kirk, I believe is his name. He's always so friendly to me.
Oh
That's
yes, that's such a good guy.
Oh, he's a great guy. Did I got his name right, Kirk?
Yeah, Kirk.
I was gonna say it's either Kurt or Kirk. So Kirk, he's always so friendly to me, and he's a great guy, great jiu-jitsu guy. So talk about this fight. You're fighting a debut guy, Bryce DeLon or DeLion, who's out of Indio Jojo, who's known, at least the gym, is known for jiu-jitsu. So where do you think that goes, and what's your mindset coming into this fight?
Oh, it's going to be a great fight. It's going to be definitely. I think fireworks from the opening bell. Both of us are just gonna. It's gonna just blow the roof right off the place. Like it's gonna be a great fight. And I expect to stand a lot with him. I don't think the India Dojo, they I don't know much about the guy, but I know they're like you said, they're with jujitsu and everything like that. But I don't expect him to just grapple me. Like I'm thinking he's gonna be well rounded, and there's gonna be I'm gonna have to do stuff everywhere. It's gonna be all over the place. So I've got to be prepared in every single aspect, not just the grappling, but I can't just expect him to be a wrestler. I think he's also probably a little bit experienced in striking. He looks like a tough dude, so we're expecting a tough dude, and we're expecting to get the job done.
Yeah, that's a great mindset to have. Obviously, any MMA fighter, and it's happened even at the high levels. Any MMA fighter that ends up thinking, well, the fight will go this way, so I'll only train grappling, jiu-jitsu, striking. That's a bad idea, because in MMA, that's what makes it exciting. Somebody who's never tried to land a takedown suddenly does, or somebody who's never done striking suddenly does. So you really have to be prepared everywhere. I'm also excited. I don't think there's been a lot of 125-pound flyweight fights for 247. I think that's a category in the men's division that can certainly, grow and have great opportunities. We've seen one of the most legendary UFC champions of all times, Demetrius Mighty Mounts Johnson, never really got as much publicity as I think he deserved as being one of the greatest of all time, setting records in number of defenses and things like that. I think flyweights are super exciting to watch, and you probably know this, training every day. Speed kills. Kids, stay off drugs, but speed kills, but speed also kills in fights. How fast, having fights now and being a 125er, how fast do you think that speed really is compared to some of the higher weights that obviously you're not fighting at, but how fast do you think that speed really is?
The pace is definitely a lot faster. The biggest aspect, and definitely with fighting this slow of a weight class, is that cardio. Cardio is the main thing. Like my cardio is just on point. So that's the one thing I always have to make sure that I keep up with, is my cardio every single day. I've been recently for I just took a trip to Florida for my sister's graduation, and 25 miles, just so it's just every day, just keep running. And so it's
Yeah,
but
you're running. It was 25 miles. What you do in a week, or
or
is that what?
it was split up for the whole week, but I'd
Gotcha.
wake up, and then I'd do some miles, and do some miles in the evening, and then I keep track of it all. And it went phase about 25 miles. So it's like I try to do 25 miles a week, so keep my cardio good.
There you
And also
go.
sparring is a different type of cardio too, but it that definitely helps a lot. So that with being a flyweight, that's
Yeah.
definitely a must. Anywhere like 125, 35, even 45, there's still that cardio is a big thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a mental toughness to both sparring and really draining your cardio and sparring, but it's also mental toughness in running. And somebody like you putting 25 miles in a week and running isn't technically your sport also shows like there's a lot of time mentally to think and push yourself through. Running, I like to say I'm a retired track athlete, and running is no longer something I really like to do, but I should. And I've coached a lot of athletes to run, and I've always said the most important coaching advice to ever: run faster. That's all you need to know in running. But it really is great. You've talked a lot. It's been awesome having you on for the first time. Let's ask you this question. You're fighting on, I found you, you're fighting on the 22nd card, meaning it's on June 29th, but it's Braunberg 22, which is the evening card. Khama Worthy will be fighting on the noon card, which is 21 and a half. Let's kind of end on this question, and that is, it's your first time fighting for 247, and also your first time fighting on the same card as your coach, your mentor, the guy that got you into MMA, watching him knock out Devontae Smith a couple of years back. What's it like going to be fighting on that card where he is the main event? How surreal is that for you?
Oh, it's incredible. Like even everyone like gonna be there is gonna be it's pretty cool because everyone from the gym's gonna be there. Everyone's gonna be able to see it live. And I'm actually from around Monroeville area, kind of. I grew up in like Penn Hills, Plum, so always been like around Monroeville. So I'm gonna be able to have a lot of people that I grew up with and a lot of family and friends come out to see the fight. So that's gonna be pretty cool too for them to be able to see Khama also as well. Be like, hey, this is my coach in the main event. Watch him. So that's gonna be pretty cool. So it's kind of like a double whammy there. Like it's a win-win.
Wow. Yeah, it really is. That what a cool experience for you. And Kama always gives, like you said about him at the UFC, talking about his gym. I mean, that's his passion. He's a fighter. He still wants to be fighting, but he's also a coach and gym owner. And he always gives a shout out to his little ninjas, which are the little kids, younger than you, the elementary school and the middle school classes he runs. And you're right. There's going to be a lot of people screaming for you because they're there to support not only Kama but also the academy. So what a cool event! Right now, I'm pretty sure you're the only. I'm looking at my list. I think you're the only amateur fight on that card that's been announced. There might be a couple more amateurs, but it's a card with something like 8 or 9 pro fights.
Stacked, absolutely
It's
stacked.
absolutely stacked. And typically for 247, cards have, 2, 3, 4 pro fights and, more amateur, fewer pros. I think it's exciting for you and those that are the amateurs on. You're on predominantly a pro card that happens to have a couple amateurs. So that's just a cool thing. And hats off to 247 for really growing. Like, they weren't planning on doing a doubleheader. They made such an incredible card that you're on that they ended up selling so many tickets knowing that they needed to do a doubleheader. So doubleheader event is just so cool. Really fantastic for you coming on. Everybody needs to get tickets from you directly or from the MMA or from the MMA Academy Pittsburgh gym or one of those guys. Also, if you're out of the area and you're supporting Tyler, go to 247 Live, download the app, and then get the pay-per-view to support Tyler that way. Thanks so much for coming on the show. This has been Luke Basin with MMA Fancast with first-time guest on the show, Tyler Covelli. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
You got it.
Let's
Take
go.
care. You got it.
Bye, everyone.